really wordy, but literally it means, I just drew a happy face. Now this is copyright. I own copyright to this now. Because I put it's an expression of my idea, which is I'm happy to be here. And then I drew this happy face in a tangible form. I could touch this, it's a tangible form. That now is the copyright. If somebody well, there's a question of the copyrightability because the originality of it, but this, I own this. I don't have a registration because I didn't file an application, I didn't get a registration, so I can't sue anybody right now. If somebody copies me, I can't sue right now. However, I own the copyright. Did I publish it? Yes, because I showed it to you. But let's say I drew something. And I didn't show it to you. It's not published. And now I can file an application. And if I drew a bunch of them, and then I file an application as unpublished, I can file it as a collection and spend just $55 to register a bunch of unpublished artwork as a visual art. And the reason that I emphasize getting a registration once again is because the law says you now have to own a registration. And to be honest with you, even before the law required it, I wouldn't start a lawsuit unless I have a registration for the client. If I get a nasty letter, that's my term for cease and desist letter, but I get a nasty letter from the other side for infringing on somebody else's copyright, the first thing I ask is, do you have a registration? And if they say no, or they don't respond, I don't take that letter seriously. I'm like, you don't even have a registration? Like, you're coming to a knife fight without a knife? Like I don't take you seriously. So I want you to kind of just keep in mind how important it is in the fashion industry to get a copyright registered. I'm not saying do it for everything because it's cost prohibitive. Initially when I was preparing the slides, I know, as you can see, I didn't use any of my slides today, but when I was preparing the slides, I was thinking, if I were launching a brand or a fashion line, and I only have $5,000, let's say, how would I spend that money? And the one thing that I really want to tell you, try not to use that money on attorneys unless you can avoid it. Because there are things that you can do by yourself, as the question was raised. Copyright, I think, is one of them. But literally go to copyrightoffice.org. I think if you just Google copyright office, it's different from trademark and patent office. That's the USPTO.gov. Copyright is governed by the Copyright Office, is different. And then when you go there, they give you very detailed instructions. I mean, really, I kind of self-taught the copyright part of it because it's just by sheer demand. And I remember just printing those things out and just reading like a line by line. So, and I learned a lot from the mistakes that my clients made because they did things on their own and they'll come to me and ask me to fix it. So I learned a lot what not to do. I am in the middle of a case where there were some errors made and we were able to fix those errors through what is called supplementary registration. So even if you find errors later, I don't want you to think like, oh, holy crap, like I made an error, this is the end of my era, like I lost my rights. No, I don't want you to think like that. There are ways to fix things. Like almost always there are ways to fix things. That's one thing I learned. Because once you just sit down and really think through and dig through, there are ways to fix it. Even in the middle of a lawsuit where you feel like, oh, crap, I didn't know that this happened. Like, why didn't the client tell me this earlier? They always find a way to settle things. So I just want you to keep that in mind. So copyright, I want you to just keep in mind that copyright is something that you own. The moment you drew something, that's your copyright. Yes, there's a question as to how strong your copyright is. For example, something like this, literally I created this, but I created by taking a screenshot of this from something, screenshot of that, screenshot, and then put it together. The value of this, nobody's gonna pay money to use this, like in all honesty. So this is the value of this the slide is not that high. But if you actually create something so beautiful that people want to wear, like put it on their clothing, now that's something valuable. And especially if somebody is infringing on you, that in and of itself demonstrates that there's value there. So I do want you to keep in mind there's a value in having the copyright registered. I think that's a good way to kind of through. So one thing that I did want to talk about is trademark. So trademark can be a word. It could be your name, it could be some nickname you have, or just a word that you like. As I mentioned to you earlier, I am representing a client that owns the word honest. But it doesn't mean that you own the word and keeping everybody from using that word. Of course not. Apple Computer is owner of the trademark Apple, but only in connection with computers. So we're free to use the word Apple. However, it is, when it comes to computers, we will not be able to launch a new brand name, Apple, and start selling computers. Because everything you see under the sun and every single services, legal services, entertainment services, photographers, moderators, like speakers, retail services, everything you see falls under one of the 45 different classes of goods and services. That's the trademark. You don't have to remember this, but for fashion purposes, it would be good to know that all the apparel falls under class 25. 25 covers footwear, headwear, apparel. Class 25. That's your bread and butter, in my opinion. Jewelry, watches, earrings, they all fall under class 14. Perfumes, cosmetics, a lot of people start getting into that line of business once you start your brand. Like perfume, that falls under class 3. Tote bags, luggage bags, that all fall under class 18. The retail services, we talked about Nordstrom, Walmart, Amazon, they all fall under class 35. The reason I'm shooting these numbers out in here is not because it's going to stick, but I want you to keep in mind when you file a trademark application, the trademark office charges a filing fee, depending on how you do, between $225 to $250